If you're a Hyrox athlete who's been taking your running more seriously lately, chances are you've heard the term threshold, but what is it exactly and how do we train for it without burning out? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna get into in this next video. I'm gonna break down four main things. What is the anaerobic threshold? Why we need it for Hyrox performance? How do we test it? And more importantly, how do we use it in our training so that we can reach a new level of fitness without burning out? So let's get into it and we'll start with the basics. What is the anaerobic threshold? When you run, your body primarily uses aerobic energy, and that's energy produced with oxygen. So you breathe in oxygen, it goes through your lungs, through your bloodstream to the working muscles, and then when we exhale, our byproduct is carbon dioxide. And this process is smooth and sustainable, and it's perfect for easy, steady running. But as your intensity and your effort increases, you'll reach a point where oxygen cannot provide the energy for you to keep going. And this is when your anaerobic energy system kicks in. It delivers energy fast, but at a cost. And that cost is the production of lactic acid. And that lactic acid gets broken down into lactate and hydrogen ions. And it's those hydrogen ions that are the real issue. They create an acidic environment in your muscles and your bloodstream. It will lower the pH levels and impair muscle function. And we've all been there. 30-second air bike sprint, sled push, 30-second max sprint effort or row or ski erg. That burning sensation, that burning feeling, that's the buildup of hydrogen ions. And here's the thing, for your body to clear those hydrogen ions, it needs one thing, and that one thing is oxygen. But remember, if you're already using up all your oxygen stores to keep moving, the only way that we can get oxygen into the body to help get rid of those hydrogen ions is if we lower the intensity of the effort that we're doing. And if you don't do that, then those hydrogen ions will continue to build up and your performance will crash. And that moment between sustainable and unsustainable effort is your anaerobic threshold. So here's my aerobic zones, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can see there that the threshold sits between those steadier aerobic zones and that high intensity aerobic zone. All right in the middle there, zone 4 threshold. It's gonna raise your aerobic capacity. And it's really, really important to understand how to train for this threshold so that you don't burn out with fatigue as you train. So why should you train it? So for Hyrox athletes, no matter what level or ability you are at, improving your threshold is a significant predictor to performance. And I know that because anyone who's doing over 3 kilometers in their event distance or 3,000 meters, nearly all of the performance gains derive from improving the capacity and the efficiency of the aerobic system. So here's the thing, whether you're doing a Hyrox or a Deca Fit or any sort of Spartan, 5K, 10K, half marathon race or more, any sort of endurance event, raising your threshold is one of the best ways to improve your performance. And that's simply because the longer your race or your workout, the more you have to rely on your aerobic energy system. If you did a 45-second max effort run, row, ski, whatever it is, 50% of that energy is going to be coming from the aerobic system, 50% is going to be coming from the anaerobic energy system. If you do a 2-minute max effort, 65% of that energy is going to come from the aerobic system. The remaining 35% is going to be anaerobically driven. A 4-minute effort, you're looking at 80% aerobic, the rest 20% coming from anaerobic, and 15 minutes of work, you're looking at 95% being aerobically driven and the last 5% anaerobically driven. So for most Hyrox competitors, I don't know anyone doing it under 50 minutes, by the way, you're all doing it over 60 minutes, 80 minutes, 90 minutes plus, right? So the majority of that energy system is aerobically driven. That's the workhorse. So remember, the anaerobic threshold is where we go from being sustainable with our aerobic system to unsustainable. That speed or that effort just before the wheels fall off. So if you can raise your anaerobic threshold, then suddenly you'll be able to run faster for longer without burning out and dropping into fatigue. So how do we measure it? Now, I've mentioned many times in many other videos that the gold standard for this is doing a lactate threshold test where you go through different speeds on the treadmill or bike and blood sampling is taken and they work out where that lactate threshold occurs. And that's gonna closely correlate to your anaerobic threshold. But I get it, we don't all have access to using the lab. So what we can do instead is what I love to do with all my online clients is a 30-minute time trial. And that 30-minute time trial, the scientific name for that is a critical velocity test. Now we know from the scientific literature that it is impossible to run at a pace exceeding your anaerobic threshold for more than 30 minutes. And that's due to the buildup and the accumulation of those hydrogen ions. So that's exactly what we do. This critical velocity test, we go for 30 minutes and we focus on running as far as we can. So run your absolute best in 30 minutes, covering as much distance as possible. Now your average pace over those 30 minutes is your critical velocity. You then take 97% of that pace and you have your anaerobic threshold. Let's say you run 6 kilometers in 30 minutes. Now that's an average pace of 5-minute Ks or 12 kilometers per hour. Your anaerobic threshold will be equal to 12 kilometers per hour times 0.97, which will give you approximately 11.64 kilometers per hour, which is also equal to a 509 per kilometer pace. So it's simple, effective, no lab needed. So just to clarify, to work out your anaerobic threshold is 97% of what you can do on average across 30 minutes on a critical velocity test. Once you know your anaerobic threshold pace, it's now time to train it. And there's one golden rule. And that golden rule is that we need to train at our anaerobic threshold or just below our anaerobic threshold, not above our anaerobic threshold. And that's because our bodies do not like an acidic environment. So when we want to get this anaerobic threshold adaptation, we need to think about stimulating, not annihilating. We don't want to tip fully over into anaerobic territory where fatigue builds up and we stop. So training at your anaerobic threshold or slightly just below your anaerobic threshold will do 3 main things. Number 1, you'll delay fatigue. Number 2, you'll improve your oxygen use. And number 3, you'll improve your ability to clear lactate. So how long you can spend at your anaerobic threshold is a reflection on how much exposure you've had to training at your anaerobic threshold along with your muscular endurance. We talk about muscular endurance on another video where I talk about tempo training, which I'll post somewhere up here, where we talk about all about tempo training, improving your aerobic strength, all right? That's gonna improve your muscular endurance. So you can watch that video there if you wanna understand about that a little bit more. However, for most regular runners, you should find that you'll be able to maintain your anaerobic threshold for about 20 minutes or so. And that's either continuous or in long intervals. And remember, when you're doing anaerobic threshold, it's really hard work, but it's not maximal, okay? It's still submaximal. So if we can gradually increase the time that we spend running at this anaerobic threshold, we're gonna improve that anaerobic threshold. And you could do that by having less recovery time in between those interval sets or just spending longer periods at anaerobic threshold. But the most important thing is that we do not run faster than anaerobic threshold because we lose the aerobic stimulus required to get maximum aerobic adaptation for minimal anaerobic input. As you become more competent running at anaerobic threshold, you should be trying to run for about 30 minutes at that threshold. Once you could do 30 minutes at anaerobic threshold, then you need to retest it because then that will quantify the gains and the performance improvements that you've made. So what does it look like in a session? Now, if you're a recreational runner, you could do a 5K in about 25 to 27 minutes or a Hyrox in sort of 80 minutes plus. Here's a 3-week progression for you. Week 1, you're gonna do 3 sets of 7 minutes at anaerobic threshold with a 3-minute recovery jog. Week 2, you're gonna do 2 sets of 10 minutes at anaerobic threshold with a 3-minute recovery jog. And on the 3rd week, you're gonna do 1 set of 15 minutes at anaerobic threshold continuously. If you're a little bit more of an intermediate, more serious runner, you can do 5K in about 20 to 22 minutes. Maybe you're going for a 60 to 80 minute Hyrox time. Here's your 3-week progression. Week 1, you're gonna do 3 sets at 8 minutes at anaerobic threshold with 90 seconds of jogging. Week 2, you're gonna do 2 sets of 12 minutes at anaerobic threshold with 2 minutes of recovery jogging. And then week 3, you're gonna do 1 set of 20 minutes continuously at anaerobic threshold. Now, as an advanced runner, maybe you can do a 5K in sort of 15 to 17, 18 minutes or so. Maybe you're trying to get that sub 60-minute Hyrox time. Then here's a 3-week progression for you. Week 1, you're gonna do 3 sets of 10 minutes at anaerobic threshold with 90 seconds recovery jogging in between. Week 2, you're going to do 2 sets of 15 minutes at anaerobic threshold with 2 minutes of recovery jogging in between. And week 3, you're going to do 1 set of 25 minutes continuous at anaerobic threshold. One key important factor when it comes to training at threshold is to use flat, uninterrupted ground. The track is perfect for this sort of work, or at the park where it's just dead flat and straight. We don't want to use undulating hills. We don't want to use anything like that because that's going to make us more fatigued and it's unrealistic to maintain specific threshold pace. So when it comes to progressing your threshold work, we have 3 main principles of progressive overload. Number 1, we want to make the run more continuous. So instead of running 3 sets at 8 minutes at anaerobic threshold, we can run 2 sets of 12 minutes at anaerobic threshold. Both stimulate the anaerobic threshold for 24 minutes, but a more consistent application of the training stress will make the run more difficult. Number two, shorten or activate your recoveries. So typically threshold intervals need to be separated between sort of 90 seconds and 3 minutes of recovery work. That could be easy recovery jogging or steady jogging depending on your current level of fitness. Now, of course, staying on the jog and recovering is going to make you a lot more fitter than walk recoveries. If you do have to recover for more than 3 minutes, you definitely are exceeding your anaerobic threshold pace, and you've got to work that out a little bit more precisely. And lastly, increase the total time you spend at your anaerobic threshold pace. So like I said earlier, if you can aim to get up to about 25 to 30 total minutes at anaerobic threshold, it's time to retest and work out what your new anaerobic threshold is. So maybe you want to start with sort of 15 minutes of total work, and over a 8 to 12 week block, work up to about 25 to 30 minutes before retesting what your new gains in anaerobic threshold pace are. So here's a cool little coaching tip for when it comes to training at your anaerobic threshold. If you have your hands on your hips after an anaerobic threshold training session, then you've hit the nail on the head, you're bang on the money. That's probably the right intensity. However, if you're bent over and your hands are on your thighs, then you've probably gone too hard and you need to back off, all right? So that can easily lead to overtraining. But remember, the more regularly you train at this anaerobic threshold, the more comfortable you're gonna get, the easier recovery is gonna get, and the more distance you'll be able to accumulate at that threshold pace. Initially, you may need to take 3 minutes to recover, but then that may come down to 2 minutes and then 90 seconds. And you can also make that recovery a little bit more active, so you can go from like say an easy jog to more of a faster, steadier jog. All right, and that's it. Let's wrap it all up into 4 main points from today's video. Your anaerobic threshold is where sustainable turns to unsustainable. It's crucial for Hyrox performance and any endurance-based event. You can measure it with a critical velocity test where you run as far and as hard as you can in 30 minutes. And to train it, you need to use structure and progressive intervals at your anaerobic threshold pace or just slightly below, but definitely not above it. Guys, make sure you watch all my other YouTube videos. It will really help you build a good engine and help you unlock a new level of performance without redlining every single session. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe to the channel, make sure you share it, tell all your friends about it, comment on the video down below. Tell me what your threshold is, tell me what you're training for. I'd love to hear from you. And if you've got any questions, just reach out to my email or send me a message on Instagram, and I'll see you on the next one.